Alrighty, welcome to the Action Tips and Tricks webinar series. This week's topic is spreadsheet reports. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Tim Cook. He is a Sage estimating consultant here at Action. Hand it over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Sullivan. As she said, today's session is on spreadsheet reports, and we're going to talk a little bit about utilizing a report that everybody has access to and probably already has set up, just don't know it yet. So in the spreadsheet reports, it's a report that includes all of the contents of your spreadsheet view or your layout. That includes all your sort levels, ranges, fonts, however you have everything set up, whichever columns you're showing will automatically be used in a spreadsheet report. Because that report information does come from your current estimate, you have to have an estimate open before you can print a spreadsheet report. So if it's grayed out, it's probably because you don't have an estimate open yet. And if you want it to look exactly like your spreadsheet, there's actually just a button called Pre-Fill from Spreadsheet that makes it super simple. And then Sage Estimating will go in and change all of the settings in your report options to match the setup of your spreadsheet layout. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do for PowerPoint. So let's jump into the demo here and take a look at how we would actually do this. So this is just a sample estimate. This one is actually broken up into different areas. So you can see I've got site, I've got a practice facility and some renovation. And I'm going to go through, and first I'm just going to sort this by phase item. So we're just sorting by our CSI codes, and we can go up to the Reports tab at the very top. And the very first one here on the left is your spreadsheet report. So when you go in there, you're going to get a box that looks like this, and you're going to want to go to your report options to set up your spreadsheet report for the first time. And when you get those options, you'll see there's a bunch of check boxes, things you can turn on and off, like combining items, vertical grid lines. But at the very beginning, what you're going to want to do is use this button here that says Pre-Fill from Spreadsheet. So if we go ahead and click on Pre-Fill from Spreadsheet, I don't know if you noticed it, but a couple of the boxes here changed because that's what we have on our spreadsheet currently. I'm still going to combine my items, so that way if I have a whole bunch of line items of rebar, I don't end up with 5 pages of rebar takeoff. It just rolls them all into one big number. And I'm actually not going to do any other changes in here. We can go through and look at this, though. You can see that it is sorting it by group phase because that's the tab that I'm on. It's doing all phases. And it's currently set up to be landscape and 1 page wide by however many pages tall. So if I just go ahead and do preview, I'm going to get an estimate that looks just like this. And you can see it's already set up where I've got my divisions, my labor amount, my material amount, all the way down to my total unit cost and my total amount. And that was all set up with almost no manipulation of this. Now, if you wanted to change some things, like personally, I don't like the vertical grid lines. So I usually try and get rid of those. You can go in and you can do another preview and you can kind of look at it like that. To me, it just looks cleaner, but that is 100% a personal preference on however you want your estimates to look when you print them out. Now, a couple of things to notice here is the columns that it's showing you and even the colors on the total cost and the total amount. If I actually get out of this, you'll notice that the columns are exactly the same columns I have here, and it kept the colors of these two. So if you do have your estimate color coded with different columns, it will carry those over. If you don't, you can. One of the other things to pay attention to is because it is pulling it all directly from here, one of the things that happens a lot of times is somebody will have a layout that kind of looks like that. So the concrete number, you can see I made the column just a little bit too small, so it's just putting all those little hashtags in there. If we go in and we do that spreadsheet report again, and we just do this, and we do report options, and we do a pre-fill from spreadsheet, and we do a preview, you'll notice when I get to my concrete section, it actually has that exact same issue with the column not being wide enough. So if you do run into that, that's where you just have to come out to your actual spreadsheet layout and widen those columns a little bit. Double clicking on the column normally gets you pretty close, but you can see I'm doing that and it's still not quite big enough. So a lot of times, even when I do double click, I'll always just make it just a little bit bigger, just to make sure everything will fit. And if it looks like you've got too much information on your page, a lot of times just reducing some of these column sizes can help with that as well to make things fit a little bit better on your page. So I'm actually going to switch over and I'm going to sort by area here. And let's go back to, because it's going to use the exactly what's in my spreadsheet, if I left it collapsed like this, that's exactly the report it would give me. So an example of that would be if you wanted to do like a schedule of values, you may have your total amount and then your grand total amount. So this is your purchase price and that's your sell price. So you could actually set up a summary sheet, you know, by area or by cost code that just shows you this information here. Maybe you don't want to see this stuff at all. Maybe you don't even want to see that. Maybe you just want to see that grand total amount and you just want to see that. And if this is the type of report I'm looking for, again, I can just come in here, go to spreadsheet. Refill from spreadsheet. This time, since it's only the one, I think I want to leave it portrait. So I'm going to go ahead and hit preview. And you can get something just like that. Now, I may want to make my description column a little bit wider since I have some extra space. And those are the kinds of things you just kind of go through and you tweak a little bit. Now, once you've done that, I will actually tweak this just a touch. I don't need my number to be quite so big, but I want this to be bigger. And this guy to be a little bit bigger just in case I get a bigger job. So I'm going to come in here and do the spreadsheet one more time. And you can see it's a lot of back and forth just to kind of get it set up the way you want. But once you do, you can actually save this so you can use it in the future. So if that's what I was looking for, I can do something like that. Right now it's fitting to a page. Fitting to a page will actually reduce the page size. It will not expand it. So if you're looking to make it take up the entire page, I would start at 100% and see where that takes us. Well, that's actually pretty good. So you could actually make it bigger than 100% if you wanted to expand and take up the whole page. So if I do like 115. And again, this is kind of just playing around with it so you can get it to look the way you want. But once you do get it looking the way you want, so I've got it portrait, I've got it blown up a little bit bigger. In my options here, since it's a summary, I probably don't need a cover page. I still want to see my totals, but I don't necessarily need them on a new page. So I'm going to leave it. I'm actually going to do the vertical grid lines on the summary. I'm going to leave it just like that, and then I'm going to say save this layout. So I can actually save this as chicks spreadsheet. Now it's giving me that error message, probably because I used the underscore and I can't. So I'll use a space. And then you have the option of saving these either as a personal or a shared layout. Personal report layouts can only be used by the person who created them. Shared layouts can be used by anybody who logs into the system. So I'm going to make it shared so everybody can use it. We'll say OK. And now it actually shows up in my list of reports. So if I want to do that one again, I could always just come down here to my shared TT spreadsheet report and do a preview. And I can do that on any estimate that I have right now. Now, I'm looking at this, and I probably should have played with my estimate totals a little bit as well. The estimate totals are just like the spreadsheet. So whatever is shown is what's going to show up on your totals page. So if you are trying to get it all to be fitting on one sheet, you may want to come in and modify this. In fact, if you're doing a true schedule of values, which is what I suggested here, you probably don't want to show your totals at all. You probably want to just allocate them all. So that way you're just showing the total, eventual total cost, and not necessarily all of these individual types of markups. So to do that, that would be under the report options again. And there's a little box up here that says allocate your add-ons. So you'd want to make sure that was checked if you want all of those numbers to be rolled back in there. So now I've got no list of markups. They're actually all included in here. And now I've got an actual schedule of values that I can use during my project management. So just real quick, a couple of other things to get the spreadsheet report looking the way you want. A few versions ago, Sage did add the ability to sort your estimate slightly differently than you are currently, than just going by like group phase and phase item. So if I come back in here and let's expand this a little bit, and let's go to a slightly different view. Oh, actually, let's go to the area one. Expand that. And we've got some things here, but I actually want to show my takeoff quantity. So you actually have the ability now to right-click in here, and you can sort inside each of these individual things instead of by their phase number, by any of the columns. So when I did that, for example, under my site sanitary, it's actually sorting, and you can see the little arrow up here, by quantity instead of by number. That's probably not a fantastic example or a realistic example, just because most people would want these things to be in order, the 12, 15, 18, 24, and not out of order. But that's how the sort works. And you can sort by WBS codes. You can sort by pretty much any column that's out here. So if you wanted to sort by amount instead, you could do that. So if you wanted to put your more expensive stuff at the bottom and your least expensive stuff at the top, you could also sort it that way. If you do something like that, you can also get that to show up on your report with the other pre-fill button that was on there. So if, for example, you say, hey, Tim said to pre-fill from spreadsheet and it's not working, make sure you're using this one to pre-fill from spreadsheet. This one will pre-fill the spreadsheet item sort. So that changes how it's going to sort your line items. So if you wanted to do that, you can. Now, one of the other things is that I went through, and you could see on my reports, I've got a title block here that's got our logo and the estimate name and some information up here. All of that can actually be modified as well under Edit Header and Footer over here on the right. And in here, you can add pretty much any information that is on the estimate information page when you first start an estimate. So you can see all of these things are in here. If you use any of those definable fields, they can be used in here as well. Job size, job unit, duration, things like that. These can all be added in here just by double clicking. So if I go, estimate address, city, state, zip, and I just double click them, it put them all into this cell. And now you can go through and you can modify this a little bit. You can add a bunch of columns, and rows, which is kind of how you would go back and get those city and state on one line and the address on another line. So it's all very, very customizable to a point. There's very few things I've run into that I haven't been able to come pretty close to creating for people. The other thing is they've also added a lot of functionality to the estimate information page in version 23, and even more in the version that just came out in 24, that gives you a lot more customizations to this page itself. And I will go through that probably in another tips and tricks.